want to start by telling you a story about a time I almost got arrested by the police in Switzerland. I was 22 years old. I was in Europe for the first time. I rented a car. Now there they drive on the opposite side of the road to India. So I'm on this highway. I know that I need to turn left. So I'm looking on the left side for an exit. And sure enough, the exit has come on the right. I have missed it. Now, when you miss an exit on a highway in Switzerland, the next exit is 25 kilometers away. Petrol is expensive in Switzerland. So I did what many Indians would do when you miss an exit on a highway. Any guesses? Exactly, reverse. 22-year-old Papa CJ starts reversing his car on this highway in Switzerland. From behind, this Swiss guy comes and bangs into my car. Now I'm there for the first time. I don't know what to do. So I'm sitting quietly in my car. He's Swiss. He's not exactly going to step out and pick a fight. So he's sitting quietly in his car. Right? But it's Switzerland. So within 5 minutes, the police have come. First, they go and speak to him. Then the officer comes to me. He said, "Sir, you are free to go. But we just want to check, would you like to press any charges against the other driver?" I said, "Why?" He said, "I've called another police officer to bring a breathalyzer to check, but we think he has been drinking and driving." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes. He seems to think your car was moving backwards." He couldn't even imagine that it's possible that somebody is going to be reversing on the highway. So I said, "No, thank you, officer. I would not like to press any charges," and I quickly drove off. Now, I'm not telling you this story to encourage you to break the law. I would never do that. But here is my point. If you can't even imagine that something is possible, you will never be able to create it. You will never be able to make it happen. In fact, quite often, if it's happening in front of you, you won't even realize it. Because sometimes the path that is right for you is not the one that is laid out in front of you. For 25 years of my life, I was looking at the highway in front of me, not realizing that I was missing the exit that was right for me. I grew up chasing a definition of success that I had been conditioned to chase. The one that society validated, the one that my parents dreamed of for me with love. And that's the path I started on, living a life that looked right, but wasn't necessarily actually mine. I went to a premier boarding school. I was academically very bright. I came first in class almost every year. I was on every single sports team. I was a part of the school band. And my greatest objective in school was to win the President's Medal. The President's Medal was the medal for the best all-rounder in school, which you got in class 12, your final year of school. I could see my name on that award. I'll never forget the day they announced the result. I lost that President's Medal by 1 point. It broke me. 9 years of undying school spirit ended on a note that crushed my identity. I was a failure in my own eyes, because for me, that was the measurement of success. I eventually recovered. I got onto the MBA program at the University of Oxford. I joined IBM in London in their management consulting practice. It took me 4 years to pay off my student loans. At this point, I had achieved every conventional measure of success. My father was a tea planter. His first job, he had started on a salary of less than $1 a month. Here I was, an MBA from the University of Oxford, in a management consulting job in London. But after 4 years in that job, I chucked up that job to pursue stand-up comedy in London, in the UK. I remember I did 250 gigs in my first 10 months. Every single day, I would travel for 8 hours to perform for 10 minutes for no money. At the end of the year, I had no money, no friends, no relationship, and no life. I'll never forget one night on the outskirts of London. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. A comedian had dropped me there after a show. I had been waiting for 45 minutes for my first bus to get home. I would have to change 3 different buses to get home. I had been waiting for 45 minutes. I was cold, I was hungry, it was raining, and I remember being huddled up in the entrance of a shop to protect myself from the wind chill. I was shivering, and I'll never forget the tears that just kept rolling down my cheeks. And I questioned myself. I asked myself, CJ, what have you done? What have you done with your life? But here's the thing. Here is where I was completely wrong in that moment. I was measuring my life with someone else's ruler. Let me repeat. I was measuring my life with someone else's ruler. And I didn't even realize that I was doing that. I want to tell you about a moment that changed everything for me. It happened many, many years later. This is my housemaster from my boarding school, Mr. Anand. Lovely man. 26 years after I graduated from school, he wrote a post on Facebook. This post was about an incident in 1993. It was an incident I had forgotten about completely. It was about the night of Diwali, the Indian festival of Diwali. A firecracker had burst in Mr. Anand's hand. He was very badly burnt. I heard about this incident. I was very fond of Mr. Anand, so I went to his house to check on him. When I was at his house, I overheard his wife calling out to him from the other room. She said, you know, I've called up, all the hospitals are closed, the chemists are closed, so when you go to the village tomorrow to pick up your medicines, please pick up some onions as well. After meeting Mr. Anand, I excused myself. I said, sir, I need to go for the school dinner, but I'll come and check on you later. When he wasn't looking, I picked up that prescription from his table with the money that was lying there. I did not go for dinner. I ran out of school. I broke bounds. I ran for 5 kilometers down the hill to the closest village. I found the chemist. I got him to open his shop. I got the medicines. I found the vegetable vendor. I picked up the onions, and I ran 5 kilometers back up the hill. When I walked into Mr. Anand's house, as my housemaster, he was obligated to reprimand me. I had broken bounds, I had broken school rules. But I could see both him and his wife trying to hold back their tears. This is the incident that he wrote about, and he ended his Facebook post with these words. He said, the loveliest masterpiece of God is a heart full of love. He certainly does have one. For 26 years, I carried the loss of the President's Medal in my heart. But I will take that Facebook post over any medal every single day of the week and twice on a Sunday. Right. I thought the award was a measure of my worth. But that was how the world measured success. It was how I ranked against others. But let me tell you this, that night in 1993, that was a measure of who I was. And that's when it hit me. I hadn't been chasing success. I had been chasing the wrong measure of success. I was trying to become a success in the eyes of the world while becoming a failure in my own. I was trying to become a success in the eyes of the world while becoming a failure in my own. Now, I have performed on thousands of stages all over the world. If you asked me about my highlights, you would expect me to say the Sydney Opera House, Broadway, New York. No. Those are not the shows that mean the most to me. The shows that mean the most to me are the ones that I have performed as a part of my happiness project. These photographs are from the cancer ward of a children's hospital, a government hospital. In one of the photos, you can see the parents of these children. They're taking photographs of their kids. Many of these parents were crying because they couldn't remember the last time they saw their children laugh like that. Many of these parents were crying because they did not know if they would ever see their children laugh like that again. Nothing I have done on any stage, no matter how prestigious, comes close to this. Now, I'm far from a conventionally successful comedian. No millions of followers online, no millions of views, no extensive global travel schedule, tour schedule. But that is by design. Because I don't have the tour schedule of what the world calls a successful comedian, every single morning I get to go to my local cafe and sit with my mom and dad for 1 hour and have a cup of coffee. There is no amount of money or fame that would mean more to me than that. For me, this is success. You will spend your life being told what a successful future looks like. Be careful. Many of those futures will ask you to give up parts of yourself. Too many people have built lives that look right from the outside, but feel wrong from the inside. Too many people have built lives that look right from the outside, but feel wrong from the inside. I know this because I did this. And it's not because I made one mistake. Not one single decision does not feel like a betrayal, because it was just one compromise, then another, until one day I didn't recognize the person who made those decisions. I remember the day I walked into my boss's office in IBM in London and I handed in my resignation. He looked at me shocked. He said, "Do you realize that if you leave this job, you may have to leave the country altogether because you will lose your work permit?" I looked at him and I said, "Sir, if I leave this job, I may lose my work permit. But if I don't leave this job, I will lose my life." There are many people who would call leaving a management consulting job in London a failure. But it was the first honest decision I had made in years. So the message I would like to leave you with is this: The worst future is not the one that fails. It's the one that succeeds at the cost of who you are. So don't just follow your dreams. Question the dreams you were given. Because the biggest failure isn't failing. It is succeeding at a life that was never yours. Thank you.